Good evening, everybody.
Hello, sirs.
TJ is in the house. That is good since it is his music we pirated for tonight. Bill Crutcher is here. Colt Manny. Some all right folks. Tonight's live chat brought to you by First Wave Holsters. They are running a sale right now through the weekend. 17.76% off of every order. Free shipping on any orders over $100.
Free shipping.
Free shipping.
Nice.
So that is tonight's sponsor. All right. So
did we lose Sonny?
Oh.
Now we're two
button. Wrong button. Where's he go? He went out. Okay, he'll be back.
Yeah. We gotta get a professional crew on this to run these live chats.
All right, we have some guests tonight. Oh, there he is. I'm going to turn him back on if he wants.
Goodness gracious. There you go.
Hey.
All right. So tonight's guest, we have Mike from bulletin.net. He's going to help me moderate this thing, keep us on track. That's really what we pay him for. Then we got Zach Bush from Definitive Training Solutions. Andrew Schreck Training, and Sonny Pazikas of Forward Training Concepts. So fellas, we're gonna I think everybody that's watching us probably knows who most of us are already, and but we got a couple introductory type questions. If you have any sort of thing you want to promote right now, like you're running a sale or you got a new class coming up or something, now would be the time to give it up. And if you got anything coming up like within the next month that you want to tell people about, or something brand new, like the helicopter Tomahawk class, now would be a good time to talk about
thermals.
We'll start there with Andrew, since he's the one with the biggest smile on his face at the moment.
All right, so coming up, we have Patrolling the Homestead in Tennessee, doing that one with Jay Gibson. And then I'm going to come back. I think I got a class going on, and I'm going up to you guys and doing Patrolling the Homestead in PA.
Awesome.
Our neck of the woods.
CombatAirTraining.com. I will drop a link for y'all. Also, I'm one bag away from being completely caught up on orders. So after that, I am going to be releasing some new items. Some of the shit is just cool shit that I wanted. And so far, everyone has really liked it. So y'all will like it too.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right, Zach Bush, what you got coming up going on?
We got Shotgun and Low Light in Corbin, Kentucky at the Tap Rack Ridge. If you haven't been there, it's a great facility. That's on the same day. So if you want to take two classes in the same day, that'd be the time to do it. I'll be in Pennsylvania for the muster. 2 weeks after the muster, I'll be there teaching entangled gunfighting and definitive retention, August 17th and 18th. And then I got a pistol class in Clearfield, Pennsylvania in October 5th. And then November 2nd and 3rd, we'll be back in Somerset, Ohio, doing the vehicle course. So those are the ones I have coming up for the rest of the year. As far as sales, tomorrow, keep an eye on the website. There will be a significant discount tomorrow on definitivetrainingsolutions.com. Whatever the discount is, you'll see it when it's on there tomorrow. You can use that anytime for any class. If it's for a class that you don't see on the schedule right now, buy 2 or 3 of them, and you can use them at any time. They never expire. You can use them at any location. So that's the discount we'll have tomorrow.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right, what you got going on, Sonny?
He's got a lot going on, apparently.
He does.
What I have going on?
Yeah.
Let's see here. So, what do I have going on?
Some stuff in Ohio.
For about next 2 months, basically what I'm doing is I'm just writing a book.
Oh,
I'm deeply involved in that process. It's supposed to be about somewhere between 150 and 200 pages. I'm about 70 or 80 pages in. Uh, it's a lot heavier process than I thought it would be, but it is what it is. As far as training, I don't have nothing public until July. I do have some training until end of July. I do have a couple events here at Fort Honey Badger that invite-only events during month of July. After that, I have the weekend prior to the muster, I'll be in New London, Ohio, teaching AK class. After that, very quickly, I'm driving to Pennsylvania. I have 1 day of private classes there with Shinde and his family. And then we're doing, I believe, 4 days of Force on Force with you, Gary.
yep.
After that, we have the muster itself. After that, on Sunday, I'm teaching the conflict management class. And let's see here. After that, I drive back to Texas. I have few classes here in September, October. In October, I'm going to Camden to Self-Reliance Festival. I'm teaching 2 classes there, plus doing the presentation. And that's hopefully, God willing, that's where my first book will debut during the Self-Reliance Festival in Camden. Those who want to know, it's actually interesting because it's for today's topic. The book is called Don't Be a Shitty Student. So it's kind of relevant, I suppose.
Ties in pretty well. Ties in very well.
Yeah. And then I believe at some point in November, I'm going to be at Andrews in Florida, teaching a couple of classes there. And then the rest of November, December, just a few classes here in Fort Honey Badger. And then next year looks busier here than it is on the road, which I'm trying to cut my road as much as possible. So besides Camden, Pennsylvania, possibly a couple other locations, I'm pretty much going to be teaching at the home base.
The best place.
As far as sales, I have the shittiest sale ever. 0% off of any of my classes. And it will remain that way for the rest of the year and for the years to come. This is not a knock on anybody. It's just, over the years, here's what I found, guys, is that people that look for discounts and prices, they don't look for training. They look for deals.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, doesn't that tie into tonight's subject well? As well?
that's just something that I noticed, that the deal searchers, generally, you're not going to see them back very often, if ever. They jump from instructor to instructor. They are tool in the toolbox kind of crowd. Very few of them ever become good. And if it hurts someone's feelings, so be it. I am not interested in people like that.
I like where your head's at there. Do you still have any openings for your the Fitty clubs?
350 is sold out. 350 is full. 250, yes, I do have plenty of openings. So that's the one way to get discount, is joining the Gospel of Violence podcast and getting into 250, 150 club, which will give you respectively 25 or 15% off of my non-collaborative, non-hosted classes. So that's one way. Oh yeah, and I just introduced the other program, which
He's messing with us.
He's just holding very, very still.
He's like, now I have this very, very important thing to tell you all about.
And this is how he builds the anticipation.
I think he's back. There we go.
I am back, I guess. Okay, good. So friends with benefits, the way it works, people that train with me before, bring a paying friend to the class, and you attend that class for free.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
Because the way I look at it is, it's people that bring people with them. They already probably had discussions. They detected that these folks are seeking something, looking for something. It's a good idea to split the travel expenses, the hotel expenses, come together to class. Your newly acquired friend with benefits pays for the class, you don't. I think it's a pretty damn awesome deal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a fucking stellar sale for a guy that says I ain't got no sales. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
It's not a sale; it's a special fucking offer. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's
Fair
not
enough.
a sale; it's a promotion.
Thank you.
Mike, you got anything new and bold you want to talk about from Bulletin,
Well, a couple
or
of
any
things.
sales on something you might?
Well,
be
just
selling?
something to promote on Bulletin. I'm hosting classes for tactical response coming up in September 28th through October 1st in Sugarloaf, PA. I'm helping organize some classes up here for that. So we got fighting pistol, fighting rifle coming up here, and other than that, not a whole lot going on. But the thing is, you can always check out, or hopefully most of the classes that everyone here just talked about on bulletin.net. We're always ongoing. We're always trying to help connect students and trainers across the country. So you can check out awesome classes there. And yeah, we'll be at the muster. We'll be doing, I'll be doing a talk there, probably on some radio stuff, maybe some encryption. And speaking of which, there is a new business offering that we're doing from Bulletin, and that is in setting small groups and businesses up with encrypted radios. So it's a year of radio stuff for us, and kind of working the communications angle. But yeah, so we got a few things going on, but you know, we're Bulletin's always here for you guys, the trainers and the students.
Well, you make it sound like you're also not a trainer. You just
Well,
don't have a training company.
not yet.
But I've watched you do a bunch of training. In fact, I had some training from you just Sunday. 4
Yes.
days ago.
Yeah, we did a private radio class for a small group of people that have that decided to stand up a encrypted radio network up here in Pennsylvania. That was kind of our beta test group, and it's working well so far. So I'm definitely I'm interested in offering those services to more people, and the training as well in how to set up the system and keep it going, and to keep groups more connected together. So yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I thought it was most excellent. I think I even said at the end of the day that I wish we had that when we first started getting regular analog unencrypted radios instead of muddling through it.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why we do what we do, and why I've been able to kind of synthesize what I've been putting together is because we muddled through all of that stuff and did it the hard way.
Indeed. All right. Well, last one. I almost forgot. Tremis Dynamics sale for the Independence Day is for the next 76 hours, 17% off of everything on the website. That also includes potentially items where I'm not allowed to advertise below MAP. You know, like if there are a couple brands on there that I can't discount, now would be the time to jump on there and
Due to clerical error.
due to a clerical error, because I'm not a web guy and I didn't know how to remove those brands from the sale.
Does that work on, say, like a day 3 navigation class?
It does indeed.
Oh wow, because that's exciting coming up too.
It is. It is. Well, you can get the orange dog tag at that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Little shameless self promotion while I put on the Tremis Dynamics hat versus the Bulletin hat.
We need to get
You
you
should do that.
a hat.
Yeah, I should just swap them, like change the background color to yellow when I'm talking about Tremis stuff.
I like it. All right. So we've been brought here today. We have a couple of viewer questions that we're going to try to get to at the end if we can. But basically, just 2 points to discuss. And I'll let you guys decide because we only had like 2 minutes to chat before we went live. Good student habits, I'm going to call it, versus bad student habits, or what makes a good student and what makes a not good student. We can talk about the good first and then the bad, or we can talk about each person's good and bad, or since I'm not real good at planning things, I really should have put Mike on this a couple days ago and had him organize it better.
Well, I can organize it right now for you.
There you go. Mike's taking charge. Oh, look at this. I'm going to put Mike over here in the big one.
Oh no. But I'm the least important voice. The moderator. Who cares about the moderator? Like those guys that ran the presidential debate the other night. Like, should I lay out like a big set of like arbitrary rules? Like everybody gets 2 minutes to discuss their opening statement, and then a 30-second response, and then a 30-second response, and then a 30-second conclusion, which can, and all everybody else's microphones will be muted during the participants' interactions, and we will not have any cursing. I don't know, and make sure that you can actually coherently answer questions. Those are the rules for tonight's debate.
Good luck, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, so why don't we start with the good? Because I'm betting you that as we get through them, we'll probably touch on the bad.
Probably.
So I guess it start. I've never moderated a round table of amazing people such as yourselves.
Well, this will be practice for you for the muster.
It will be, because actually, I should have mentioned this. The intent is to get a bunch of content and a bunch of great interviews and discussions around the muster for podcasts. I know you're doing a roundtable for the muster itself, right, Gary?
Yep, that's going to be like the after our headliner is over, the cool down act will be interaction with the crowd, with the panel of instructors.
Yeah, so I think that'll be this. This is a good trial run, I would say.
Yeah. Because you're going to moderate the shit out of that too. Did I tell you?
Oh, I guess this is my audition.
Yeah, you passed. Carry on.
All right. So, gentlemen, the first question for this evening is, what does it mean to you to be a good student? What are good student habits that you encourage the students who come to your schools to do? And I'm going to arbitrarily pick someone, Andrew, to start us off.
So first thing that I'm thinking of is a good student will seek like a full understanding, and they're going to be trying out everything that you want them to do, like without an argument, basically they try to do it that way that you show them, and then they seek to fully understand it, like how they're doing it and why they're doing it.
Not just the rote memorization.
Yeah, not just going through the motions and barely doing it, but like really trying to nail down whatever that thing is you're teaching them and seeking to fully understand that thing the way you're teaching them.
Yes. Gary, I see you nodding.
I like that. It's really close to my answer, which I had shared my notes with you prior to the tonight's live chat, and with the 2 questions on it. Well, because they were my notes, they also had like my answers below them.
Well, it's a good thing I didn't read those too.
Well, so the very similar to what Andrew is saying about what I think makes a good student is what some instructors think makes a bad student, and that is questioning the why. That we're doing it this way, and then I want them to compare that to whatever preconceptions that they brought with them. A lot of instructors aren't fans of, don't this is my range, don't question me. We can learn a lot from that question, because then we can dig deeper into it, because they're illustrating that they understand a little, that there's a question, like they get that, like, hey, there's competing factors here, and they want to discuss it, and we'll all learn from that discussion. So that is a good student habit, I think, although depending where you go, you might not get the same reaction, but I love it when students almost challenge the why we're doing it doing any method or technique or whatever a certain way.
Zach, how about you, sir?
Well, Andrew and Gary pretty much took the first 2 that I wrote down. So the third one I wrote down.
It's like an after action report at the end of a class.
Yeah,
like I just started you in the hole.
Yeah, I just started writing down like things that make a good student, and those were literally the first 2 things that I wrote down. Especially Gary's point about being able to question what's going on, and the instructor should be able to explain why he or she is doing it that way. That's critical. the other one I wrote down, maybe a little bigger view, is for the student to be there for the right reasons, right? So like for the student to sign up for the class because they want that knowledge and not because they're wanting to train with a specific person or because this class looks really flashy and cool on the internet. Like if they, as a student, as we all have been there and most people in this chat, like really sitting down, either writing it out or just in your mind talking it out, like what do I need next? And then who fills that void the best. I think that makes a great student. I've had students come to classes that really were like, I need this topic because I've realized through some way that I'm deficient in it. And to me, those students always seem like they're kind of getting a little bit of a jump over everybody else because they genuinely want to be there for the right reasons.
Mm. Sonny, how about you, sir? What are some good student habits?
All right, so I'll start with something very simple. When I see a student walking out of his vehicle towards the class area, and yes, depending on the class, he may have his gun back, he may have his backpack and all that stuff. But first and foremost, I look, does he have a fucking notepad and a pen? If he has a notepad and a pen, I think I can work with that person. It's interesting story. It's actually from my discussion about a year ago that took about 2 hours over the phone with instructor Zero. And he said, I look at the class, he goes like, and there are dudes coming in with the war belts and helmets with all the attachments for the knots, for anything else. And then they go like, can you repeat that? I forgot what you said 5 minutes ago. And 18 guys out of 20 in the class have no notepad and no pen. Zero goes like, that drives me absolutely freaking insane. So what it tells me is this: the student comes in with the mindset of paying attention. Attentiveness to me is probably the most important attribute that student can bring to a class. He can have, many other positives, but if he's not attentive, if he's there to socialize, if he's there to hear only what he wants to hear, but not to hear, as Andrew said, the wholesome story that instructor has to tell, explaining the why and the how and the why of the how, not just the why of the what, right? He's not a student. He's a fucking dabbler. I don't appreciate dabblers anymore. I don't appreciate tenderfoots. I don't appreciate part-timers. Like in that one show that I quoted in one of my posts, and it's actually going to be in the book, The Young Pope, where he said, I want fanatics. Because fanaticism is love. And, if people say that they want to get this, as Zach was saying, when people come in, I watch what they bring in, but my first question, and I actually now have a little wood plank at the entrance gate to Fort Honey Badger. Why are you here? If people have not contemplated in their own mind, why the fuck are they here to see Zach or Gary or Andrew or myself or any other instructor for that matter? I don't know how dedicated they are to being attentive during the next 2-3 days. Mm. I think for most people, it becomes more of a fucking social event, an event to shoot guns and to talk shit about gear and be seen, as opposed to learn, have your balls broken, sometimes have your brain broken, and extract something out of it.
Yeah. Actually, you hit on something that I had written down too when Zach was talking about it, is like the right reasons, right? So let me ask you guys this: like, if you can think off the top of your head, what are the right reasons that we should be that students should be finding training?
Who is talking first?
I was going to see if anybody just jumped in, so I had to do less work. But let's go to Gary.
So are you looking for like examples of the right reason or a bigger concept of what would be right reasons?
I would say you could probably stay base level of like what, like out of successful students that have come through Tremis Dynamics, or people that have impressed you? What are the, like, do you have any examples of things that have driven them, the reasons why they've come?
Usually I get the good reasons from repeat students. I think they're just more prone to open up more once they've made a more personal connection. And usually when I'm getting like what I consider the right answer for why they're at any particular class is something that we already kind of mentioned a little bit, was that in some part of their self-evaluation, I don't think that they get that reason until it's a self-evaluation. Even like we can evaluate them, but until they realize it themselves, I don't really think anything manifests from that. But through their self-evaluation, they found something lacking, and they can usually articulate very well what it is that's lacking or how it got to be lacking, or and they've picked whatever that thing is because they want to fill the thing that was lacking that they discovered about themselves. And I really think it has to be a self thing. Like I can tell a dude he sucks, and he doesn't care until he believes that he sucks.
Zach, how about you, sir?
Yeah, I would say that pretty much the same thing. It would have to be that internal recognizing that they're deficient in something, right? And not only are they deficient in it, that they see someone out there who can help kind of fill that void with either knowledge or skills or both or whatever. And that realization of knowing that they have a lack of skills could come from a personal experience, right? They could take a pistol class and then they could have a small block of retention shooting, and they could say to themselves, like, I've never done this before. Like, this seems like a whole expanse that I don't know anything about. Or honestly, it could come from them hearing of another story, whether it's someone they know or someone they know of, and they could apply that to their own life and say, man, if that happened to me, I don't know what I would do. Or, man, if somebody grabbed me in the Walmart parking lot, I don't know how I would handle that if it's not a situation where I could just pull the gun out and just do the gun stuff, so those kind of realizations, whether it comes from a story outside of them or whether it's a personal story, I feel like in my experience with myself and with my students, that's usually what drives them to, for example, take a shotgun class. They'll say, well, I have shotguns in my home. My neighbor has a shotgun, and she asked me how to shoot it, and I didn't know. And so that's why I'm here is to learn this. And so those self-realizations are kind of what I see whenever students share, like, why they're there.
Andrew, taking notes.
So
Trying to show us all up.
Yeah. Look at this notebook.
well,
over
I'm
here.
like, hang on, I'm retarded. I gotta write this down.
You got to keep them on task.
So like one thing I've been thinking about, because I'm like, I'm kind of thinking of myself as a student and what I like to do, and thinking about this, it kind of comes back to a quote that I got from Sonny in Shooter Fighter Matrix 1, is that is to question everything, including the things that you believe to be absolutely true. I believe I quoted it right, but I'd have to look at my notebook and I use that. Now, so the thing I'm thinking about is like another thing that can make a successful student is a student that is stepping outside of that normal circle that he's in, like I normally just do competition style training. I normally just have done, NRA style classes, or one of our people, they need to step outside that too. And it gives them a fresh look, as long as they're being open-minded to everything, even if it's in a subject that they've already learned a lot about. If they go and learn it from somewhere else, they're going to get a new perspective on what they believe they already know. And I think that that can make someone successful too, because it's like, hey, I just want to take another look at this from the way Sonny does it, the way Gary does it, the way Zach does it.
Cool. So it sounds like there's a lot of agreement here amongst like this kind of common theme of like to be a good student, you really have to address the deficiencies. Like it seems like everyone kind of swam in that same space, right?
Well, the way I'm saying it is that I'm saying like it could be a subject that I don't believe I'm deficient in. Like,
sure, yeah,
for instance, going to dynamic carbine with Tremis, I like have not been doing rifle classes because I was a rifleman in the Marine Corps. I feel rifle is easy, and so I haven't had that as a focus at all. I've been like, let me go do all the other stuff. But taking that class, there were some things I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that makes total sense. I should be doing it that way, and it made a lot of changes for myself.
Right. Makes sense. So let me ask you gentlemen a question.
Hold on. I'm
yeah,
gonna be like Donald Trump. Why did you exclude me from this question?
Oh, you started the question. It was off of your response.
Do you work for fucking CNN or Bulletin? Which one is it?
I'm just gonna go, guys. I'll see you later. Sonny,
No,
please.
it's okay, continue, Mike. Continue.
No, go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as the mindsets, I like where you guys going, but I pointed my finger when Andrew said that sometimes where your deficiency hides is behind the facade of what you believe is your strength. And ability. I tell my students later like this: I want you to come into my class naked and sick, and knowing that you are sick because you are naked. When I say naked, is dress down all of your strengths and leave them at the gate. So we all, including you, if you look in the mirror, you can see nothing but fucking weaknesses, because this is what we're here to address. Not to pump up your strength and go like, oh man, you're really good shot with a red dot. Oh, Zach there, he's amazing with the shotgun. This guy is amazing. You know what I mean? I believe that serious dudes don't come for a fucking pat on the shoulder, right? When we teach our respective classes, we get our pats on the shoulders from our students. They're amazed at our skills, at our ability to transfer knowledge and all that stuff. That should be good enough to feed our ego, right? But if we go to learn from someone else, humility to fucking get naked, meaning remove your clothes, remove your armor, remove your strengths, go there with nothing but your weaknesses. I think that takes a lot, and that shows me that this is not a tenderfoot. This is someone who's ready to be motherfucking opened up with a scalpel, deep dive into it, and you can actually rewire those dudes. You can actually change the way they look at things. Otherwise, there's this shield. Well, yeah, you say I suck at this, but remember, Andrew, in my classes, I say always, there's two words I want you to delete from your language: but and because. Because usually they are, it's like prerequisite to say but and because and what.
That's the perfect freeze frame for Sonny, by the way. I don't know if everyone else has the kissy face.
Yep.
I think Mike does work for CNN. The same shit happens. You're like, he's talking again.
Push the freeze button.
That's okay. I went over my time limits. I understand.
No, that's awesome, man. Let me ask you guys a question, because like as I was listening to everybody's responses, what I couldn't help but think of in my head was how I've seen all of you, well, actually most of you, like as students as well, like either as a fellow student or some in classes, like, and this is a question for everyone, and let's see if we can get a little back and forth in here. Like, how have you changed? Like, what are the habits that you've adopted since, say, you started training to now? Like, what's the biggest thing that's changed for your habits in being a better student?
Yeah, I think I was too social when I first started.
too social.
Yeah. Like,
How so?
That's exactly what I
Like-
think about you. Very social.
Yeah.
well, it's just like I guess, or you could say I become more humble, because after you smoke the wrong person and force on force, or you get shot for being retarded, you're like, huh, I want that to never happen again. After you have a scenario where you're like, huh, if I wasn't such a fucking idiot on that, in real life, that could have been really bad. Like I wouldn't be going home to my kids because of the decisions I made, and so kind of like what Sonny was saying, it exposes weaknesses, right? And so thinking, because like for myself, seeing the commercial training industry, I saw it as like, oh, these are the cool guys. I want to go do the cool thing. And that's what it felt like, and at first I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. And then like very quickly when I got to take my, it's also, there's ego there because it's like, oh, I've shot at real people and they've shot at me and blah, blah, blah. But then, when it's a lot less black and white and a lot more gray and more eyes on you and you're all alone in that force on force scenario and the wrong thing happens, you go, damn, I need to get a lot better. And so it changed kind of like the way I looked at going to a class. And it was like, no, I'm going there so that like I can be the fucking best and I'm going to squeeze every ounce of information I can. Now, I still love fucking hanging out with dudes in class, but it's like I am more hungry for what I can get out of the class now when I go.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest change in that was after force on force.
I couldn't agree more. Like the Rolodex moments in my head that play through more than any others are ones where I did stupid shit in force on force. Like they were 100% inflection points in training for me.
But I'll bet when you went back after that, you did way better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I had the same thing happen. I'm like, all right, would have died one time, but maybe not if I had a full magazine, and I can live with every decision I made.
What about you guys? How is training or how have your habits changed over time as a student?
I think for me, maybe the past 4 or 5 years, I pay a lot more attention to, I guess, how the instructor does what they do, kind of how they run the class, how they structure the class. And I know when I took a month or so ago, I took a pistol class from Calvin Lim, and it was a great class, but I found myself when I went over my notes again, a lot of my comments that weren't related to the actual drills were just kind of the way he taught or how he would teach a block of instruction and then do it, and like just kind of the logistics of how he instructed. And I've found over the past couple of years, I've kind of and I looked back at other classes I've taken the past couple of years in my notebook, and I noticed those same kind of comments about how they structured the class or how easily it was to tell their overall intent of the class. And those are things that I feel like, at least the past couple of years, that I have made a big focus as a student, and not just the material itself, is like, how is the instructor teaching this?
Sonny, how about you, sir?
So here's the interesting thing, right? I started on, so to speak, martial path at the age of 6. I'm 55 now. So that's a lot of fucking years to recount how things have changed and how things got affected. But obviously, when you're young, dumb, and full of cum, things don't change that much. You just go along, you just do things, right? Gradually, there's those 4 stages of knowing, right? You have education, you have knowledge, you have intelligence, you have wisdom, right? And it's really distinct stages, right? So lately, what I'm paying attention to, if if I'm watching someone teach, and let's say the class by, I don't know, pick a name, right? Be it Mr. Fisher, be it Craig Douglas, be it someone else teaching, I'm watching the class, right? I'm trying to see if I can extract something from it on all four levels, which is the knowledge, the education, the intelligence, and the wisdom. And these are really distinct bits of information, because as an instructor, as a guide to other people, I certainly need to add to wisdom and intelligence. Now, knowledge and education, it's more like checks and balances. I'm kind of bouncing it off of what I teach, more like a technique, a drill or whatnot, and kind of doing the comparative, how does this affect, right? So for me, I think in the past 4 or 5 years, that was probably the biggest change is distinct, extracting information in these 4 distinct areas, from watching other people teach and listening how they teach. And the thing that Zach mentioned, methodology, is huge. It's absolutely crucial part, because you can have incredible material, but if your methodology sucks, that material is not being delivered to students.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole separate question. If now you have good material, shitty delivery, and then shitty student on the receiving end, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
Mm.
So,
What's more dangerous, shitty material and a good delivery, or a shitty delivery with good material?
shitty delivery is always more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you know what? With good delivery from the shitty material, I can extract certain even negative knowledge. It's important to have negative knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And to me, the most important in this trinity is the student. Because if you have shitty student, you may have perfect material, perfect delivery. It fucking lands in the bottomless swamp.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothingness. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Shitty student is the cancer, and we need to heal it. But because shitty student is the one who pays us, we don't have balls to heal it, because hey, he brings the money. Mm-hmm. And that's part of our business being not just our passion, our craft, what we do, but this is also how we put the food on the table, because it comes with a risk. If you're too blunt, if you're too direct with the students, some of them will not fucking come back because their feels got hurt and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So this is for each individual, for each instructor to kind of look at and go like, do I want mediocre students, or do I want to my social media presence, to my videos, to prepare those students to have a little bit more thick skin, so I can tell them more bluntly how they need to change themselves, so I can deliver good fucking information that they will be able to absorb.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, how about yourself, sir? Bring us home on the idea of how you've evolved as a student and your habits.
So probably bigger picture, like Andrew in the beginning, it was probably more of the training event was an event, and if I picked up some stuff from it, great, but I was there for experiencing the moment. But the more that went on, the more it was about, all right, I wrote down a bunch of stuff from this class, and now I'm not taking another class for X amount of weeks, months. And between now and then, I want to implement some of that into living those things that I learned. So, all right, I got this new technique. So, and I'm going to put honest work in at it and see if it's better than the technique I was using. Instead of just saying, well, it wasn't any better that day, I'm done with it. It was, like coming back from class and putting the work in on the things from class. That changed over the course of my training career, I guess.
Mm-hmm. As a student.
Yeah.
Well, I think that actually is a good point to kind of change the direction of the conversation, because you guys have all highlighted ways that you think you're or that you've seen yourself grow, and we've talked about good habits that students can bring to a class. Well, why don't we talk about the shitty ones and what defines a shitty student or a bad student?
Okay, I'll start with
Yeah,
that.
everyone's like,
I'm-
"Oh, I want to get in on this one."
No, I'm gonna be like Donald fucking Trump and jump in on it with my orange skin and orange.
Hells yeah!
Yeah. Right? Shitty student, it's a vampire of your time.
Hmm.
If the motherfucker comes in and in his introduction, I ask people at the beginning of the class because I'm old, my memory is not as good. But it's really not that. It's the test of how the person will speak. And I go, why don't you guys introduce yourselves to the group? What's your name? Who you are? Your approximate age? Where are you from? Why are you here? What training experience you have? What things you bring as far as the knowledge and skills? And it's very interesting because I don't get that many of those guys, but at first there were quite a few. Hey, I'm John. And then there's 5-minute litany of classes he's taken and classes he assisted in teaching. Pretty much he's coming to my class, supposedly to learn from me. And in the first 5 minutes, he's trying to impress everyone on the grounds. Look, mofos, I have quite a fucking resume here.
Ah, damn it. Come on, Mike.
It's always while Sonny's talking.
Yeah, that was a good freeze frame right there. That's a good face.
Mike and his BNN network.
There we go. He's back.
It really, really works great on the fucking ego. It really does. And generally, they become much quieter, like significantly quieter. They listen more, they start taking notes, and they no longer co-instructing with you without you ever asking to co-instruct. You know what I mean? Like that douchebag that stands there, you give a 5-minute speech. Hey guys, this is what I want you to do. This is what's going to be going on and all that stuff. And then this motherfucker is standing with his training partner there, right? And he's translating. What Sonny said is, no, bitch, shut up. Sonny said what Sonny said. You close your mouth. You do your fucking work. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
so that thing to me is something that we need to look out for because it can infect the whole fucking class.
Yeah.
And other people that are not that way, they will suffer from that one idiot who acts like that. Pinch it quick, pinch it hard, pinch it painfully, end it.
Yeah.
End it. Another thing is dudes that, oh yeah, remember me, Sonny? I've been to your class 2 years ago. Maybe I don't. But then we start running the most basic drill, and I go like, well, obviously in those 2 years you've been sleeping under the fucking tree because you haven't done shit. You suck across, in 3Ds, height, depth.
Yeah, dudes who don't pay the fee, they don't fucking practice the shit that they learned in class that they paid to learn.
Mm.
Yeah, that
is-
drives me.
They're
Bring
rough
to the
to deal with.
table. Okay, I've been talking for too long, so cut me off. Let other guys share their wisdom.
Oh, we were just trying to fill the audio gap while your while your screen was buffering.
It froze 2 times.
Yeah.
But we do believe we extracted the things we were saying.
Yes. I think one of them. You know what? Here's a confession. I probably did that. The class interpreter. I have to it's one of those things that when I go to classes, I specifically don't let myself do anymore because, especially as I've gotten closer and gotten more reps in as a trainer and teaching, because then you're naturally like, oh, I can help. And I want, sometimes people even look to you because they're like, hey, you can teach this stuff. Why don't can you tell me what he's saying? It's like, no.
It's very tempting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is super tempting.
It is tempting, man, because it strokes us because we go like, hey, I got the experience, I got the knowledge. Let me translate it into studentish for you.
Yeah.
What exactly this dude said.
Yeah.
And satisfying feeling.
Yeah. Well, and that's why they do it, right? Like you can't even blame them. They're trying to help, right? Like deep down at their core, they just, some of them may not be doing it for the right motivations, but I get why. How about you
But
guys?
that's part of a discipline of both student and instructor, right?
Yes.
To kind of go like, regardless of my motivations, am I interjecting myself into someone else's book while they're writing it, and I really don't know the full story that they're trying to project.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're doing a service, you think you're helping. If you are someone who's also instructing, the good idea is probably before, if you're attending class with some other instructor or whatnot, to talk to him ahead of time and kind of go like, hey, dude, let me know if you want me to be zip lips or if you want me to sometimes interject.
Right.
Or better yet, tell me when you want me to flap my lips.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go by the cues of the lead instructor, whoever's teaching.
By the way, the background here, guys, is what happened to my big oak trees while I was traveling. See?
Oh, no.
Yeah, 2 big oak trees that were here. The Mother Nature did quite a fucking number.
Damn.
I think on what you guys are talking about, I've had it happen a few times where I have a good, one of the students I like brings his friends, and then he's trying to help them, and he's trying to do a positive thing, but it's like, oh, and then remember to stand like this and lean your body like this and do this with your joint. I'm like, dude, stop. Like, they need to focus on keeping the fucking sights lined up on the target right now. Believe me, giving them more shit to worry about will not help. And it's and I think Mike, because I've been tempted by that before too, to interject and interpret and whatever. And I think the thing that you realize is like, the more classes you take, the more you realize like, no. You need to do the one fucking thing the dude is talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to add to it, was kind of doing it how the instructor is asking you to do it. Kind of ties into what you guys were saying, but in almost all my classes, I make a point at the beginning to talk about essentially what you're paying me for is the things that I think are important related to this topic, right? You can disagree, whatever. If I tell you to do something with the gun a certain way, or grab somebody a certain way, or do an escape a certain way, I get it. You may think there's a better way, but I want you to do it the way that I'm teaching, because those are the things that I think are important related to the topic. And as a student, I've been guilty of that before. As far as either not doing it exactly that way or whatever, voicing, a question about why am I doing it that way, that's totally acceptable. Like, hey, why are you teaching it this way? That's 100% approved, and I actually welcome that. But it comes down to the idea of like, you're paying me for the things that I think are important related to this topic. And I guess that kind of goes into that open mind cliche term that a lot of people use, is like, if you're there to take a entangled gunfighting class from me, like, I get it. There's other people that may teach different stuff in a one-day format, or you may have different martial art experience that, leads you to want to do this. But I want you to drill it the way that I'm showing you, because that's what I think is important based on the time we have and based on the subject matter.
Yeah. I think the thing that you mentioned in there, I've seen a time or two with the, like, and there's a difference, right? There's a difference between someone who's struggling to grasp the thing that you're teaching, like, hey, this is something that's so foreign to me, I'm having trouble, and my brain's like skipping over it, and it's not letting me focus on it, versus the guy that's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like,
no, and it's usually, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually the guy that's not, it's not his first, second, or third class.
It's always that guy. Yeah, it is.
It's always that guy.
He thinks that he's a freaking expert. I'm an alumni of tactical response. I'm an alumni of this. I'm an alumni of sheepdog. Whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like they've been blessed to teach. You know what I mean? They've been crossed and sent off to share the wisdom that they gained in 6 fucking classes of altogether less than 100 hours. And you go like, dude, you have a lot of grass to shit on.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I like for students to tell me what training they've taken, especially if I don't know them. One, because I genuinely want to know, right? But the other 50% of the reason I'm asking them is to see how they answer it, to see if they tell me every single class they've taken, like all 15 of them, or if they just say, "Oh, I've trained here, I've trained there," and anyway, and then they move on. That's a big indicator. Not always true,
Yes.
but sometimes.
Indeed.
But yeah, Sonny, you're exactly right. It's those students that sometimes are hard to like do it the way I'm teaching it, even after I've explained why. 90% of the time, probably those are students that have taken a large amount of training, especially in that area that I'm specifically teaching in.
Agreed.
Gary, bring us home, brother.
What was the question again?
You expect me to know? You're the one with the notes.
Well, we were so focused on the problematic student that I was like, we're just talking about that guy. It was just the what makes a bad student.
Yeah.
And yeah, so my notes, if you had perused through them, fell into kind of my last thing about my training and the first point that Sonny brought up, and that is the person who comes to the class to check that box that I did that class. I got the certificate or the dog tag or the challenge coin or the whatever, and then they go home and they don't do anything again until they either come back or go to somebody else. And then they're like, well, after like the third drill, they go, I haven't really shot a lot since the last time I was in class. And of course we're all like, yeah, we know.
Yeah,
like,
we can tell.
I knew when you got out of the car. But yeah, the student who doesn't take it home and do it. They're not making the payments. They put the down payment in and then they don't make the monthly payments. To me, that's a bad student. I mean, it's great that they want to come back and keep paying the bill, like we mentioned. That's how we manage to eat. But I would rather have fewer students who did the work, because like I want to go places with them. Like I want to take the students that show up to class and like progress past the lowest common denominator class. I want to take them further. I want to the most that I know about a subject, I want to deliver all that.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I would consider cutting edge for my knowledge on a subject, I want to go, guys, I don't have anything else written down, but we're going to now get into the stuff I've been experimenting with, because you guys have come that far. And it's hard to do that when those students don't, like they come back at square one, like every time you see them. So to me, that's what I look at as a habit of a bad student.
There's a good question posted by Manraj here. Can a student skilled in the learning objective of the class still be a shitty student? More or less, can they be doing the task at hand seamlessly and still be shitty? That's a good question.
It's an excellent question.
And I like questions like that. And see, and this is the gentleman who asked the question. His dad dragged him here for the fear inoculum, and it's a rough class to be in as your first class with me, and it was his first class with me, fear inoculum, 5 days of that shit. And so to answer that from my perspective really quickly, and because I kind of interjecting myself here, but Donald Trump always does that, so deal with it. Yes, you can be skilled at what you think is objective of the class, and because of what you think is objective of the class versus really determining or asking instructor what is objective of the class, you can still be, by the virtue of thinking that you know what objective is, you can be a shitty student.
Yeah. Like you can perform well.
Mm-hmm.
Like performance is not linked to learning.
No.
Like it may take you a fuck ton of time to learn to perform really well, but like just because you can put holes on paper that are like really fast and like do amazing things with a gun doesn't mean that you're a good student. Like it doesn't mean that you grasp what it is that who we need to be as people.
No. I don't like using military examples, but it's kind of like, be it here in Western militaries, be it, naval special warfare teams or the D-boys or back in the country where I came from. Usually the dudes that perform first tasks when you start the testing, to earn your stripes, so to speak, that perform very well in the first tests, they never make it. the dudes that crawl and claw and bleed somewhere in the middle or towards the end, 16 tests into it, that motherfucker is still clawing and crawling and bleeding, but he never quit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That it's that willpower, it's that grit, it's that determination, and it shows you that the shit is important to a person. You know what I mean? He's invested, he's vested into it. Just because you're ultra study and you perform amazing with shooting or whatnot, I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. I've seen some of the best shooters in the world. Not easy to impress me. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at 3 right now that probably can outright in shooting outperform me. You know, so to me, when dudes, just because they do well in the class in one specific area that they think is the, well, it's a gun class, so how well do I shoot? No. You can still be a shooter student while performing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
I think there's in my head, there's a very simple test for it. And maybe this is oversimplification, but it's the thing that always pops in my head. Like, if you, no matter how well you perform in the class, like if there's somebody who smokes the drills, is super attentive, they're taking notes, they're like, they could objectively even be a really good student for that amount of time. But as soon as that class ends, okay, index, we're all right, everyone can put things back in the cars. If they completely lose the situational awareness, if at that point it becomes the regular, okay, now I don't have to worry about anything anymore. I don't have to perform anymore. I don't have to be a good student anymore. I don't have to worry about where my gun's pointed anymore. That is a heartbreaking moment, because you can, like, that's how you can see somebody that goes from being, a really good student in 1 second to being like just throwing it all away the next, because they're not taking it with them into the next moment. I don't know, that's the one that always kind of gets me, is seeing the end of class and somebody's like, I don't have to worry about this anymore, and they de-gun and put the rifle back in the bag and then start pointing it at all the different places. It's like, you have to live it, like, from every moment. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I know I'm the moderator and I had to interject on that one, because it's like one of those ones that I've seen too, in terms of like a bad student habit.
Yeah, I think hitting on that question, it's like I been to a class where a dude who is in the industry and like friends with the instructor, and the fucking worst student there, like last up to the line, fucking off when the instructor's talking, and the instructor's friends with him, so he doesn't want to be a jerk to him. And it's just like, I'm in line to go do this drill over here, and they're fucking around with their phones trying to get each other to do videos, and I'm like, all right, I'm walking to the other line, just because, like, and he's not a terrible shooter or anything like that. He can do just fine, but I think the aspect of being able to do a thing good, and also probably didn't pay to be there. The things add up into a devaluation of the class, and I think that might be a key thing, is if they don't value the class, kind of like Sonny and I. Well, Sonny had some pretty sweet deals. The only deal I have is students retake classes at half price. But like, no sales, because sales can devalue what they actually feel for the class. And I've had it before where students that got paid for by friends or whatever didn't really give a shit, and they were the fucking worst student. And it also, a thing I hate is when they just start being lazy about things that we taught them. Because it was hard, things like, I'm like, literally heard it said, I'm tired of picking empty mags up off the ground, so I just stick them in, like, out of the rifle into my arm, and then I put a new mag in the rifle, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, like, you were making yourself so awesome to kill right now. Please stop. But anyways, go ahead.
All right. So, Gary, I'm going to turn this thing back over to you in 1 second, but I had one last question for the group. because I think it's a simple one and one that kind of ends on an interesting note. We've talked about good students. We've talked about bad students. My question for you guys is, can a bad student become a good one? Like, is it a redeemable thing? Like, or is it like what we're talking about is so so entrenched that it can't be taken out of someone?
I think it depends. I think it depends like how they're being a bad student, right? I think if it's just the logistical side of being a bad student, right? Whether that's showing up late, whether that's not coming up to the line, whether that's not, or whether that's talking when the instructor is talking. I think those are things that you could fix. I think what maybe is on that side of unfixable or extremely difficult is when someone is so ingrained in the idea that, you know, that they're just training when they're at class. Like, you know, the second that class is over, they take the gun off, they unload the rifle. Those people, I think, is a little harder to fix. But I think it kind of depends on what we're talking about as far as how someone is being a bad student.
I think that we're getting there's a philosophical question here of, are we asking, can people change for the better? And trust me,
it's seen right through the question.
It's hard for me to not just go full cynical, because I'm a pretty cynical dude. But at the core of my being, I think, yes, that people have the innate ability to become a better person, which would mean that they can become a better student too, which is that's a section of them being a person. Whether or not they will, like, they're the cynic in me says, fuck, probably not. But I do believe that every person out there has it in them to become better.
Andrew?
Yeah. How to do it is the hard question. Like, you know, I've joked around that, like, that I have this side business where I'll abduct your wife so she wants to carry a gun from now on, you know, and she actually wants to come to class with you. But then it's like, okay, how do we do that for that guy that's fucking off in class? Do we go like, hey, you know, that's your second strike, one more strike and you have to fight me in force on force, you know, like, how do we do that? I feel like it's got to be a thing they want to do more than anything. So that may take an external force, you know, just like that thing that got a lot of people to buy their first gun recently, that got a lot of people to go take a class for their first time recently. It could just be merely you setting the example. And I know we all kind of like to have fun, and we also like to take it to a dark place in class. But it could just be, you know, it could purely be on the instructor to get them to perform well. You know, I'm not afraid to say that. How to get that person to lock on, that's really fucking hard, especially from person to person.
Yep.
Because you can have each person in class be a completely different personality type with different experiences. But I think they can change.
Sonny, how about you, sir?
You know, if you look at from the theological perspective, if you look at the most of the followers of the Christ, they didn't quite start as nice people. Some were mass murderers, hoes, thieves. So yes, people can change. And, you know, there is no shame. I guess it's cooler to be pessimistic. It's cooler to be cold. I don't believe in humans, and I don't believe humans have a good side. I'd rather sleep with the dogs than humans. You know, yeah, it impresses certain segment of population. That's not the segment of population I want to my classes, because they need some growing up to do. Yes, students can change, and the stimuli for it. You know, you can leave that stimuli for life to bring it into that person's life, or you can take very heavy responsibility upon your shoulders and try to be that stimuli for that person. And there's a risk to it. There's a risk you're going to make an enemy. There's a risk the word will spread that you are a douchebag, an asshole. you don't care, you're full of ego yourself because there was no need for him to do this to me. And look, now I'm limping for the next 3 days. That's all right. That's all right. There was a need. I determined it, and the question is closed. But it's tough for instructors, because again, we do have to juggle and balance that thing that this is our passion, this is what we do, we believe in what we do, right? We believe that we have a very serious and good reason to try to share the knowledge and skills with people that come, but we also want them to come again and pay again, because that's how we put the food on the table, that's how we make our truck payments, that's how we live. So there is that dilemma, and some of my students ask me, they go like, Sonny, what would you do if you were filthy rich? And I thought about it, and my initial thing was to say that I would not charge for the classes, and I scratched that idea very, very quickly.
Oh yeah.
I scratched that idea very, very quickly, and I simply said, you know what, I would charge you for the class, but none of the money would go to me. They would go to the church, they would go to this thing, but you would still pay exactly the same fucking price. It's just that I'm no longer need to depend on your money.
Yeah, I'm
probably going to become a little bit more of an asshole because your money doesn't mean shit to me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to be judging you strictly. You're no longer a coin carrier for me. You are strictly a person who comes here to learn. So your possession or non-possession of coin means zip zilch nothing for me. So you don't want me to become rich because I'm not going to be a blessed person. Which there's not much danger in that happening anyways in this business. So relax.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you for letting me help steer some of this conversation. Gary, I hand it back to you, sir.
All right. So my thought was an hour and a half, and we're under an hour and a half. So I'm going to hit some of TJ's questions. He's got a pile of them here, and I'm going to skip some of them because some of them are like, should you have a suppressor on your home defense rifle, and why? And we're going to skip that.
No,
but because he has a couple that are more at the philosophical level and not the gear talk, queer talk thing. And like this first question that he had, I don't think we're going to have an answer for it, but I think we're all going to have the same answer for it. But here, I'll give you the question. And he asked, have you ever had doubts or second thoughts about training so much and if it's worth it? And I don't think you can get to where we're all at and have a lot of doubts about it's the right path to be on. But I'm sure there are a lot of students that have that question. My answer is no, it's who I am. Like, there isn't a why. It just an is. But if anybody else out there wants to try and tackle TJ's question of,
I would just say make sure you're practicing the shit you learned, because otherwise there's not really a point in taking so many classes.
I did have moments where I doubted it. Like, I'm sure everyone's path is different, but I had doubts that I was putting in the time, the effort, the money. Like, I think every student goes through some level of progression self-confidence, right? You start out and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And like, you go to that first class and then all of a sudden you're like at what you think is 100. You're like, wow, I feel so much more confident now than I did before. And then somewhere after that peak, there was a trough where it was, a few classes later, maybe a force on force where I'm like, oof, I don't know. Am I putting in enough effort to like, get what I want out of this? Like, am I spending too much time traveling across to Pennsylvania? I was living in New Jersey at the time. So like, and this is just my journey that I went through with it. And it's unique to my personality, right? Like the things that were driving me as a student. But it was one of those things where it's like, you stick with it. And then to your point, Gary, I think like the thing that links us together is because we're so sure about it now. Like, and I don't know if I would have been if I hadn't gone through that. Like the moments of like Sonny, I think I'll probably, start veering into territory that you might talk about sometimes in terms of crisis of faith. You know, if you don't question the faith every now and then, it doesn't, you're not as strong as a believer. So I think that was very much part of my process as being, a student.
Okay, well, since you kind of mentioned me here, I guess it would be appropriate for me to say a couple of things. Yeah, you know, again, not to sound like Bible thumper, but when according to the book, when he rose from the dead, there was this dude named Thomas, right? That's why they call it the Sunday of Doubting Thomas, one of the apostles that didn't believe that he rose. And in the church, they actually refer to that as a holy doubt. And the reason why it's referred to as the holy doubt, but that this is absolutely natural. This is the struggle that you should see as a blessing. It's okay to doubt. It's okay to lose a certain amount of faith. It's okay to question things. It's absolutely perfectly fine. It's just like when you're lifting weights, you hit certain plateau, right? You cannot go past that 375 squat or whatever the case might be, right? And you stuck there for a few months and you go like, ah, fuck, nothing I do works, and you start questioning, should I quit? Should I, what I mean? It's good for you. It's good for you because this is where discipline is forged. This is where steadfastness is forged. Because without that, you cannot be a good student. And I'll tell you something else. Without that, unfortunately, in a lot of fights, your fighting ability, your fighting spirit will die before you actually die. That is that muscle that needs to go through the doubt. That's that muscle of overcoming your own doubts, overcoming your own weakness, overcoming your own excuses you want to give yourself not to continue. I think it's essential. I think it's essential, and I'm glad TJ asked that question because a lot of my students, they go like, look, I've been coming with you here for 6 fucking years, and I feel like I'm stuck for the last year. My movement is not getting better. You explained everything about loading and this and that, and I'm trying this and trying that. Nothing is working. I'm stuck. I suck. I kind of shake my head and I go, yeah, you suck. Cool. And they expect to hear more, some kind of coddling, fucking, I'm gonna give you a hug, kiss you in the cheek, and go like, oh, I love you, man. You fine. Just lick my neck for a couple of more hours, and I'll give you the silver bullet answer to your troubles, and everything will go away, and everything. No, I just say you suck, and I just look at it. Because people need that. People sometimes need to be slapped in the face because when they come to you asking for comfort, this is the worst fucking thing you can give them is comfort. Because that's going to kill their drive, that's going to kill their character, that's going to kill their fate. Now, I'm telling you as an instructor that's been around this for a while, guys, I used to think and I used to do that. I used to do that with students where I would be this, this supportive person. No. Again, some people may make comments about you. They'll go like, "Man, dude is hard. Dude is ice. You know what I mean? He has no
So
feelings.
uncaring.
He doesn't care and all that stuff." That's actually a very deep level of caring because through your experiences, through your knowledge, through the wisdom you gained in years of doing this, you understand that what he needs is a cold shoulder. Because he needs to develop that muscle, so to speak, to allow his balls to fucking drop, to overcome this and crawl forward. That's my opinion only. That's not wisdom. So,
All right, you guys ready for another one?
Yeah.
sure.
At what point, if ever, do you feel it's appropriate for a student to help teach others. I'm going to assume he means not during the class, but like, hey, I've taken a bunch of classes and now I'm, at the range with my aunt or whatever. And how do you know if you or someone else are qualified to not cause harm or lead them in a wrong way?
It's very simple. Ask Gary, how should I teach my aunt? How should I teach my cousin? And do I suck at it? And Gary will tell you, well, actually, in this next class, let me watch you for half an hour teach this new student.
Yeah.
And Gary will evaluate, and Gary will give you a download, probably a lot of suck on your part. But when they give you suck, they're giving you the ways to fix the suck. And but absolutely, as a man, that is part of your duty. If you acquired some knowledge, if you acquired some skills, intelligence in the matters of the violent interactions and all that, yeah, that is part of your fucking job to share it with others, especially loved ones and people that need it, ask for it. It's just then the matter of asking people who probably been swimming in this river for a little bit longer how to do it the right way, how not to make mistakes that they probably have made in their early careers as teachers.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of folks that I know, that's kind of the system that they run. Like, oh, you've been around a bunch. Hey, you want to run that group through that drill over there? And as a student, you're like, hey, they trust me to take these guys over and run them, proctor them through this drill. And I know the instructor is going to keep an eye on them and watch how they're doing. When the reality is the instructor's keeping an eye on the guy who's proctoring that drill. And like, cause that's a phase of, that's a stop on the path is when you start given that responsibility as the student instructor.
And
do that.
My daughter is now watching a lot of what was the fucking 3-part movie, animated movie, Despicable Me, right? And my favorite characters of all of the fucking movies are the Minions. And this is basically, as instructors, what we're doing when we ask the student to run these few guys that may be having trouble. You know what I mean? We are molding a minion. We are molding a minion, and that's the foundational. That's the big thing for where the minion. Someday that dude may become a guide, and God willing, better guide than we were to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting process. And as all of these dudes can tell you, yes, you learn a lot as a student, but guys, how much do we learn when we teach?
That's when the learning starts.
A whole fucking lot. So actually giving that privilege to one of your students to teach maybe a block or whatnot, it's not just responsibility. You're giving him a gift. It's a big gift because they're going to learn a lot from it.
Gary, this that question was from TJ, right?
Yes.
If I can interject for just a moment and speak directly to TJ, if he's still watching this video, you're ready.
Oh, I assume that's what he was asking.
TJ is one of those guys that he is technically at the highest level of proficiency out of most of the people that I know, like technically wise and whatever. And I'll tell him straight to his face sometimes, like, I think you are a great teacher and you should devote time to learning to do that, because for some of us, I think most of the guys on this call, it wasn't like something that it was like, oh, I have plans down the line. I'm first going to be a student, and then I'm going to be a teacher, and then I'm going to be a business owner, and then I'm like, no, it's something that called to us along the way. Like, we were students, and then we understood at some point that is part of the Marshall path, is like in our own progression, but then the calling to help others. So like it's you see that in people and you go, yeah, that's why I want them part of my crew and part of my close circle. And like that's to me, that's how that's how you, like, hey, I want to help develop that guy, and he's ready, and it's it's fun to see that. And like, that's why I love talking to you guys, because seeing that kindred spirit of like, oh yeah, the love for teaching and that kind of progression is what brings us all together. Like that's what it's all about.
Hey,
And I
Mike,
would say-
Mike, you didn't take any notes, did you, while I was speaking? I said, don't tell people anything positive. TJ, don't listen to what Mike said. TJ, you suck.
I did take a note on the levels of experiencing a class, because I was unfamiliar with that.
All right.
I would. I just want to say one thing about this topic. As an instructor, probably the biggest compliment that I feel like I could receive, or that I have received, is that my students eventually start teaching. Right? Like that's ultimately like one of the things that I would never discourage. Now, there's different times that people are ready, or there's different examples of like, are we talking about him teaching, like having a training company, or are we talking about him teaching his aunt how to shoot a shotgun? Like, what are we talking about here?
Right.
But the idea, and sometimes the internet disagrees with this, is like, when I teach you the information, like it is yours. Like I want you to go out there, and if you deem it necessary to disseminate it to people that you care about, whether it's your students, your family, your neighbor, whoever. And there's nothing more flattering than having one of my students eventually start a company, for example, and be more successful than I am. Like that's extremely flattering for me. However, at what time are they ready, I think depends on what are we talking about that they're teaching. Are they running a company? Or are they just teaching their neighbor how to shoot a shotgun or a pistol? But I think sometimes the internet will make you feel like you have to have years and generations of experience before you're ever able to start telling or teaching somebody what you know. And I would disagree with it.
Oh, and don't forget 20 years as a tier 1 operator.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about that? The hate that I don't know if you guys saw. I posted the video about not listening to the grumpy old man. Man, I got some messages from grumpy old men, my contemporaries, that felt very, very offended by that video that I put out. And, the whole premise of, unless you've been in 10 knife fights, you should not be talking or teaching knife. If you haven't survived 10 gunfights, you should not be teaching anything about guns. If you haven't done an open heart surgery, you should not be teaching medical classes, And I look at that and I go like, I have a lot of those friends that are in their 50s and 60s, and they really sound like it's sad, man. They're angry. Because they're entitled, because some of the newer instructors, they get more people coming to classes with them than these old grumps getting in their classes. And they're like, hey, I trained with this master. I trained with this master. You haven't even met him. He died before you were fucking conceived, And I learned these secrets that are no longer available. And I learned this fucking system of, 4-winged flying monkey with a fucking fire hydrant, whatever, up his ass, and these dudes are angry, but I look at how they teach and what they teach, and I go like, okay, so you stabbed somebody, 36 years ago. Great. And he's using that event as a teaching point that this is everything there is to know about work with the blade is confined with that one event that he lived 36 years ago. I go, dude, you're fucking delusional. Not only are you delusional, you're intellectually lazy because you are unable to extract principle-based lessons from what went right, what went wrong, so you can teach people. You telling the story because it's cool fucking story and you're a rough old dude. Shut the fuck up. Give way to some newer guys because they're actually using their brains a little bit better than you. You're getting rusty. So I'm dealing for the last 3 days with hatred from my contemporaries about grumpy old men. So, well.
Yeah.
What else is new in my life, right?
Yeah, I definitely have heard some of the most retarded shit I've ever heard from dudes who have been in actual combat that I would never want to be in combat next to them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I concur. I harp on that a bunch, so I'm not going to keep harping on it.
Yeah, I was like,
they're
teeing you up, Gary.
Gunfire Concealment was in this chat. Casey, when he was at, I role played for both the Force on Force classes he took. First one didn't do so great. Second one, he really crushed it, right? I also know dudes that had years of Marine Corps training that when bullets started flying, they laid down and started crying. So I will take Casey instead.
All right. So then he has one question that he polished the end off with that I think is quite relevant. Between the 5 of us, who would win a go-kart race?
Mike, you and me are out.
Well, funny enough, I learned that from experience this weekend.
TJ asked that question as well, and a bunch of us, including TJ, went go-kart racing this weekend. I think that's why that was on the tip of his tongue.
Yeah, I was not first, or any of the other places before last.
I will respectfully just stay at the start line and let you guys race. I'll take the big L, no problem.
I did hold my own though. Like I was aggressive. Spun out.
So anyhow, that's the questions. I think we hit the coolest ones that popped up in the middle of the chat as well. Tried to keep an eye on it. I may have missed an awesome question in there, but when you got this kind of group talking, you don't want to spend your time reading a bunch of randos on the internet asking questions. So I may have missed something cool. But if I did, apologies. Post it over on the social medias, and I'll answer it, or one of these other guys' social medias, and maybe they'll answer it. Especially if it really was a good question we missed. That's something. Oh, actually, I know Sonny's got an alumni group, and I've got an alumni group. Zach's got an alumni group. Bulletin has a group. Andrew, you got something going on for all your people where they can chat together and stuff somewhere?
Yep, I got my group on Facebook.
Awesome. So the reason I bring that up, I know there are people like, well, I'm not an alumni, I can't get in the fucking group. When we were talking about good students, bad students, and we talked about how it's a social event for some folks. Everybody here literally made a social platform for you to do the social shit with, so you don't have to fuck it up at class and talk about, who makes the best shotgun cards when we're trying to talk about, whatever, critical blood loss lecture we're doing. We did, like, everyone here has made that so you can have that aspect of being an alumni of any of us. So
Gary,
go use that.
Gary, I took it a step further. Everyone kept telling Tim Morris stories, so I made him a fan page too.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
But I mean, even if you're not a student or an alumni of any particular group, there are resources out there for you. I mean, the bulletin community is one of them, just to throw out a shameless plug that, find the resources that help connect you to a bunch of different schools too, because that's part of the process, is learning to figure out where you can go and where you can get classes. So I just wanted to, mention that as well, that you don't have to be an alumni to find good people to talk to.
Agreed. All right, so you guys, each and one by one, you wanted to give a closing see you later or any of that? Don't forget to sign up for the 250 clubs, or I'm coming to Kentucky, take my class. Any last minute things you want to say? And that you can, if you haven't already talked about it, you can give us a big reveal about what you're going to do at the muster, because you guys know it's all on you, man. Unless two of you pick the same thing, I'm staying hands off on whatever the subject's going to be.
So
I got.
go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say I need to ask some questions about time blocks and all that for that.
Okay.
13 minutes. That's what you get.
And whatever time you don't use, Sonny will take.
Yeah. Okay.
He'll take it anyway, but
Well, considering that Gary puts me at the end, and so it's kind of like I have this free ticket to insult people, because if they already left, I mean, I'm not gonna hurt anybody if I insult him being the closer, right?
Yeah.
So I have a free reign, which is fucking awesome. So my portion in this year's muster, I'm not gonna disclose too much. I'm just gonna give the audience the name of it. and it's going to be, the name of it is in the form of a question. And the question is, so you want a big D?
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the Navy way.
Now, Gary, if we suddenly get more signups from females coming to the muster, it's not a bad thing.
Nope, not in the least bit.
Who wants girls? That's weird. I'll go next. So I think I may have mentioned it in the quick intro before, but my plan is to put together a little bit of a tidbit on what happens next after you kind of get into radios and communicating with a team. So I think a couple of years ago I did a block of basically sig int, like, you know, what capabilities are out there and why radios suck. Well, this one will be a little bit more about like, oh, well, how can I push a little further and start doing things with radios that are more awesome?
My block this year is just about retention shooting. So it's simply going to be about kind of hopefully exposing students that have had a class that has had some kind of retention shooting, a couple of positions or techniques, kind of the why behind it. And so that's essentially what my block is going to be about. There'll be live fire with it as well. If you don't have the ammo or don't want to shoot, you don't have to, but it'll be a chance to hopefully try some retention shooting positions that you've never tried before, and to understand the why as it relates specifically to an entangled gunfight. The other class that I've been working on that will come out next year is a 2-day active shooter class, and it's like the most excited, not the most excited I've ever been, but like developing this class, I'm extremely pleased with some of the progress that's come with it. There's force on force, there's live fire, there's mannequins involved, there's downrange shooting, there's all of the things. And as I've been writing this out, as I've been talking to other people in the training industry about their thoughts, because obviously, like everyone else, when I develop a class, a lot of times it's from other people's material that I'm just putting together, whether it's been from my own personal experience as a cop, all of these things, is going to develop into a 2-day active shooter class. And it's something that I literally work on it probably every day, and I'm extremely excited about it. And that's probably going to be next year when it starts to roll out. And it'd be great if I could roll it out in Pennsylvania for the first time.
Oh, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I want in.
So if you've taken Dave Bigger's Red Zone, you'll see some familiarities there. And then there's the like history side of it and kind of like what these things look like from a numbers, from a mathematical perspective, and then how to get the student to understand what, when, and how they should intervene to make these things the best outcome they can be. And then we practice all that with live fire, force on force. And obviously we're putting people all over the range because that's where people are in real life. So that's kind of what I got going on at the muster, and then kind of beyond that.
Nice.
Awesome. I think this year I might actually get something done in the muster. Same as last year, what I planned on doing if we needed the extra material, and we didn't. Last year I was going to call it a dry practice, but I'm not sure I'm going to title it because there's going to be, it might not be completely, there's going to be no live fire, but it isn't all going to be dry. We might have some moist fire. But how to practice without going to the range is really what my subject's going to be. And if you're listening to this live chat and you've hung around this long, you should be coming to the muster. So
August 3rd.
August 3rd. The tickets are out there.
Now, Gary, they should be coming about 4 days prior to the muster.
They should be.
Yes.
Those guys are all coming to the muster too. So all the guys that have signed up for that. If you sign up for the Science of Dynamic Violence, I'm throwing in a muster ticket for free.
Damn.
Also, if you are an alumni of mine, the muster is half price. I also told Zach, he was the first one that popped in before the live chat started. I'm going to share that code with him as well, so he can share it with his alumni, and I'll give it to Andrew and Sonny as well, so that anybody that they want to share it with it or their alumni can also get in for half price. So it'll only be $25, which what you're getting for $25, You get a lot more. If I charge $300 for it, you'd be getting more than what you were paying for. So it's a steal. So anyhow, with that, I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about students and how to be a good one and how to avoid being a bad one. And we didn't just talk about whether we should have silencers on our home defense guns. So with that, if we ain't got anything else, I'm ready to pop smoke and call for a hot extract or whatever it is they say in the cool podcast nowadays.
Bail out.
All right, so you not you five, but